Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. It's good to see everyone.
Hey, there I am. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Some technical issues at the very last second. All right. Welcome to another episode of Head in the Clouds from us here at Go Cloud Careers. In case you weren't ready, we've got some excitement in store for tonight. So my name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Go Cloud Careers, joined by Elonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer, and Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO. So this weekly show is where we come, we unwind, we have some fun, and we still address those topics that are important to you. So let me welcome you. At Go Cloud Careers, our goal is to help you reach your dream careers, and that's what we do. I'm just going to leave it at that. It's pretty simple. We've got the three of us, we've got over 50 or 60 years, depending on who's counting, and if we're being honest about our age. We've got over 50 or 60 years of leadership experience, and we're here to help you and share the knowledge from our extensive background with you. So we've got Mike, we've got Elonzo, and we've got a special guest tonight. So let's get into this. So as you saw in the title and in the email, we are going to be talking about what it takes to be elite. We're going to be talking about focus. We're going to be talking about dedication. We're going to be talking about what you need to do to build that elite technology career that you desire. So before we get started, I just want to give a quick rundown on a few things, and then I'll ask Elonzo and Mike to give us some words. The first thing I want to do is I want to let everybody know, as always, I always got to cover me and Elonzo up a little bit here, but we have our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. We're going to be doing that this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll also, we already did it this Monday, so not happening again. So we'll be doing it on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, where you can come and hear all about our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, how we developed our program, how we train people. Whether you want to train with us or train on your own, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the Cloud Architect role, what hiring managers want, what the Cloud Architect actually does, how to deal with HR and those job descriptions that ask you for everything from DevOps to software development to cloud engineering to 75 years of Kubernetes experience, the introduction of the assembly line before Henry Ford ever decided what the assembly line was, all that good stuff. Oh, and by the way, a couple of gold medals and a few years in the NFL. Our special guest might be able to fulfill a couple of those, but not everybody can do all that. So let's join us this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, so that you can learn how to get your first cloud architect job, how to become the ultimate cloud architect. That link is in the description and in the chat box. Also, this Friday, we're going to be doing the Winning the Interview webinar. So we will share the secrets to win the interview that have helped countless people change their lives. So the interview begins before you even realize that the interview begins. Before you even step foot in the door, you've already started your interview process. Your interview never ends.
No.
But there are many secrets that we will share with you. And then we will also tell you about how we propose that we can help you win those interviews and how to prepare. We have a tech interview mastery program. We'll share details about that, but most importantly, we'll share those secrets with you, and we'll take your questions. We'll be able to, you'll have me, Elonzo. I've got 15 years of HR and leadership experience. Elonzo's got 30 years of marketing and branding that he brings to the table. And Mike's got his thousands of people that he's helped win the interview over the course of 20 years. So we'll share all those secrets with you. We did it this past Friday. It was great. Lots of engagement, lots of activity, lots of great questions from amazing people. And we look forward to doing it again this Friday. So make sure you join us for that. Last but not least, I just have to tell everybody, because it's happening and it will end. We have a 50% discount available on our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. The link is in the description in the chat box. You can learn about our Cloud Architect Career Development Program by clicking that link in the chat box. The program's got hundreds of hours worth of content, access to 3 live classes a week for an entire year, Azure training, AWS training, tech skills training, soft skills training, everything that it takes to actually do the job of a cloud architect, not just get a piece of paper that says, I know AWS services or Azure services, to actually do the job. The link is there in the description for you. For the average cloud architect earns $800 a day. For just a couple of days pay for the average cloud architect, you can enroll in this program and change your life. So I'm not going to dive into that one very deep. You can look into it, and you can join us on our webinar on Thursday if you want to learn more. We look forward to anyone that chooses to join up with us. We look forward to helping you reach your dreams. So I'm excited to get going. So Mike, Elonzo, I'll let you guys talk, and then we'll move on with the show.
I'm just excited to do this show. We have Reggie, who's incredible in absolutely every way. He's going to share with you what it takes to be an elite athlete. I think when you hear him speak, and actually, my team apparently told me they're going to interview me. When you hear him speak, what it takes to become the CEO of a global organization or a pro NFL player, they're pretty much the same. They're just a little different. So we're going to take it from the business executive side. We're going to take it on the pro athlete side. This is going to be really, really fun. So welcome all of you. Listen to what Reggie says. To be at his level in that top 1/10%, you're really dealing with somebody special. And Reggie is exceptional. And I can't wait for you to hear from him, hear his story. We're probably going to go down a different interview path than you would traditionally hear from, because, we're about how you apply this, what it means, how to be the best you possibly can be. So I'm excited. We'll have Reggie. Apparently, Chris and Elonzo are going to interview me as well. I'm going to be taking a back seat. I'm going to be one of the victims today instead of the people, and I'm loving that too. So we have lots of people in the audience today. I see my brother, Michael Matsikas, is in the audience. He's my best friend. Actually, he's my brother-in-law, but I've known him now for a long time, and I'm super thrilled that he's here, as well as everybody else that is here. So welcome. Thanks for being here, and I can't wait to do this show. It's going to be fun. Over to you, Elonzo.
Well, we've said it all. I'm excited. I think that it's going to really, really put a nice point for everyone to understand what it takes, not only to become a cloud architect, but just being elite, being the best of the best, and the fortitude that you need. So being able to bounce off these questions and interact with you and Reggie is going to be a phenomenal time. So I'm hoping everybody's strapped in and ready to go.
All right. So if you're ready to go, give me an elite tech career in the chat box. And as soon as I see what I determine to be enough, #elite tech careers, we will start. But until I see that, I'm not starting. So we're just going to sit here. Gonna sit around and just kind of wait. See if we get any. All right, let's see what we got. Anybody? All right, looks like we got some. Looks like we finally got some. We got Tyrone, we got Daniel, we got Derek, got Lady DeGaiva, Jason, Mr. Pitts, Daniel, D-Shaw. All right, we got people. Juice Jones. Hey, Juice, haven't seen you.
It's been a while, yeah.
AJP, Lady Godiva, Chris with his long hashtags. Hey, it's not my fault that the English language is so long. I have to deal with it just like everybody else. All right.
Chris with these long hashtags.
Yeah. All right. So there we go. Let's get on with the show, and let's bring in our guest. Let's see what we got. Boom! There we go. Hey, there we go.
Everyone, this is
Reggie.
Reggie Bonnafon. Yes.
I appreciate the intro music, Chris. Thank you.
Oh
Appreciate
yeah, hey man, I had to pull out all the stops for you, Mr. Bonnafon.
it. Most definitely.
How are you this evening?
Well, I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Doing awesome. We're glad to have you here, man.
No, definitely.
Thrilled.
I woke up with a message from one of our students that they got cloud hired at a wonderful company in the UK. So that's a great way to start off my Tuesday. Always love. I woke up and I'm out here visiting some people and doing some work for the with some collaborators for the company. And first thing I did, I said, "Hey, look at this message I got this morning. This is why I do what I do."
Yeah.
And they just nodded their head and they said, "Yep, exactly why we do what we do."
And actually, you guys don't know, but one company called me to get a reference check on somebody they plan on hiring. And when I told this person, I gave them a reference check, she said, "Well, there's another company that said they're going to be making me an offer too, so you're going to get another phone call." So that's why I do what I do.
Yes.
Wow.
Hey,
Yeah.
there we go. All right. So, everybody, we've got Reggie Bonnafon here. Reggie, I'll ask you to give us an introduction for yourself. I don't like to introduce people. I like to let people introduce themselves. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Reggie.
Yeah. So first off, guys, I appreciate you having me on this platform, just to spend some time with you guys and share a little bit about myself. But just to answer your question, Chris, a little bit about me. So I'm Reggie Bonnafon. Currently a professional athlete who also loves technology and has been a part of this great program. Growing up, I'm originally from a small town, but I've had big dreams since I was a little kid. I've always been determined to, chase after my goals and do the things that were necessary to reach those goals. And right now I'm with you guys to really just go in a little bit more depth about my journey. And like I said, I'm really glad to just be on this platform with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're glad to have you here. So this might be a little different, and I'm pretty sure it's a little bit awkward for Mike. Mike is not going to be the one doing the interview, I guess is what we're going to
He is
call
in the
it.
hot seat.
He's in the hot
Okay.
seat along with you as our guest. So we're going to talk with Reggie and Mike both about what it takes to be elite. Reggie's playing professional football here in the United States in the National Football League. Mike has had an amazing career as an executive at multiple tech companies, at Cisco and others, and now he's founded Go Cloud Careers, of course, and he's helping thousands of people. So we thought that it would be great. Sorry, I'm on the road and I'm not in my normal seat, so that's why I'm doing so much adjustment. I'm at a university. And I'm sure if anybody went to university here in the U.S., the seats at the library are not the best.
Yeah,
Not
they're
at all.
designed to be
Falling
as
asleep.
comfortable.
Yeah. So we're going to talk with them about what it takes to be elite, and pretty sure we're going to come across some similarities in their stories. So now, I don't know, Elonzo, do you happen to have this list in front of you as well?
I believe I do, Chris.
All right. Just to make sure, can you tell me what the first two words are on that list or the email? Please tune.
Please.
Are we looking at the same thing?
Yeah, I don't think we're looking at the same one.
All right. So, yeah. So let me. I'm gonna put this over here for you. We have so many moving parts around here. There we go. I got that for you on a WhatsApp message.
All right, there we go.
There you go. So now we're on the same page. Oh man, so many things. Tuesdays are our busiest days here. So
They are.
So obviously we can ignore that first line. So I'll let Elonzo start things off. And
All right.
so now also before we get started, I want to let everybody know if you do have questions you can share them in the chat box as well.
Yeah.
We'll bring them up, but we've got our set of questions to keep the flow of the show going. So we'll let Elonzo kick things off for us here.
All right. Well, Reggie, again, we are hyped to have you here. We are excited and welcome. So let's get into these questions. And the first thing that I'm sure a lot of people want to know is When did you learn you wanted to play professional football?
That's a good question, Elonzo. So, the first time I really knew that I wanted to play football would have to probably go back. First time I actually touched one, honestly, I was probably about 5 years old. Believe it or not, my mom was the one that put the football in my hand for the first time. My dad was a college baseball player growing up, so baseball was like king in my family up until the point of me making the decision to go against the grain and play football, right? But kudos to my mom for doing that. And she just took me to a park one day, and I just ran around, and it really just created a love for it, really organic. And from there, just the competitive nature in me since I was a young kid. I never liked losing in anything, right? So I hate to lose more than I like to win. That's what I always say. So once I got the ball in my hand, I always just knew I wanted to be the best and play at the highest level and be able to compete, with the best of the best in the world. So it was a long journey, but since I was 5, I've always had a dream of making it to the big stage and playing on Sundays.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, it's that type of when you have interests, and then you have that passion and being able to drive forward. That just means a lot, and it helps to define who you are as a person. That's personally for me.
Definitely, for sure.
So I was just thinking, how hard did you have to work to get to that point?
Well, that's a funny loaded question right there, Elonzo. For me personally, I wish I could even keep track, honestly, of the hours that were put into me reaching that goal. Right? It wasn't easy. It wasn't smooth sailing by any means. But there was a lot of sacrifice that went into that. As a kid, oftentimes even in my community growing up, around middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, even in high school, there were things that I sacrificed that a lot of kids did. Every weekend that they enjoyed, whether that was going to the skating rink or doing different things that I was more focused on doing other things, right? So there was a lot of sacrifice put into that. But man, I couldn't tell you how many countless stories I have of just being a young kid, 15, 16 years old, waking up at 4:00 in the morning with nobody telling me this is what you're supposed to do, but just because I wanted to do it, right? And there's one situation that comes to mind when I made the decision to wake up very early in a summer, just in high school, and coming back in the house probably close to like 5:30 after doing some just jogging around my neighborhood as a young teenager. My dad was when he was living was an early bird, so this was around the time he would wake up, and to see his son, teenage son, coming in the house soaking wet, wondering where he had been, and him really not even knowing that I had, got out of the house to begin with, but coming back and seeing that, I was really dedicated to this, that even just lit the fire under him and me to know that like this was something I was serious about pursuing, and from there, that work ethic, that relentless pursuit always just was steady.
Okay. Yeah, that says a lot because, in any young man's age or anyone young person at all, we're all over the place. There's no focus. We're good for one thing for 5 minutes, and then the next thing we're on to something else. And, like my son, okay, I want to play the guitar. Okay, I want to play football. Okay, I want to play basketball. Let's go back to the guitar. So to have that type of drive at that age, that already kind of underscores and creates or defines you as becoming or getting on that road to being elite, because at that day and age, nobody's doing that. Nobody's focusing on what they want to do. They just want right now, but you could see that goal all the way down the line. And that speaks a lot to your determination. What about you, gentlemen?
I got a question about this because I'm guessing you did those things because you saw that down the line. You knew, okay, this is where I'm going to get. I have to get myself up and do this. Nobody else is going to get myself up and do this. And it's interesting because I went to school. I went to high school with the guy. He did not end up playing professional sports. He played junior college baseball, but but I distinctly remember we're from a small town of like 10,000 people. So like everybody literally knew everybody. But he had the keys to our gym. Not the coach didn't have the keys to the gym. He had the keys to our gym, which by the way did not have air conditioning when I was in school.
Oh man.
I was
Better.
so mad. 2 years after I graduated, and after 4 years of playing basketball in that gym, they got air conditioning, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, perfect timing, right?
Anyway, the guy that I'm talking about, as a freshman, he was in there every morning shooting basketball. But again, he ended up he ended up going further with baseball. Again, small town, everybody kind of did everything. Everybody played. We didn't have enough people to play every sport unless you played 50 sports. But that same level of dedication, and he knew that basketball wasn't going to be the thing that did it, but it was the thing that he could do at the time, because it was the middle of it's January or February, and going into the gym was the thing that he could do. So I just find that interesting, and I look at him now and I see that same focus and dedication has gotten him to where he is in his career as well. But I saw it at the time and I was like, man, he's really determined. All right, I'm going to go over here and have some fun. But it speaks to what we're talking about here. There's some of us aren't focused at the same time as other people are focused, and we can see the results of that long term. I want to pivot here because I'm not gonna be boring. I told Reggie and Mike this. I'm not going to interview Reggie and then interview Mike. We're going to go back and forth, and we're going to make this one big mixed bag of fun for everybody. But Mike, so I know, Mike, that you did martial arts or
A lot of it, yes.
You did something along martial arts. Is that something that you did? Is that something that you did like a hobby, or was that something that you were dedicated and focused? Because obviously you're not a professional martial artist right now at this point. So I'm not sure what the background is with that. And
well, honestly, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but I spent a lot of time at my uncle's house, and my uncle was a sergeant from the Marine Corps. And my uncle said, the Navy, they drive the boat. If you want to be tough, you need to be Force Recon Marine. So my whole life I spent doing martial arts, and I didn't just train. Some people train until they're tired. Other people train until they're physically sick. I trained until I was physically sick each day, and then some more, because you've worked out hard enough when you can't get off the ground and you're physically sick. And when you fight past that, that's when you were tough. So with that, I was doing Olympic weightlifting, the clean and jerk and the snatch. In high school, I was squatting 500 plus pounds. I was deadlifting 700 pounds in college because that's all I ever really wanted to do. And, when I tried to enlist in the Marine Corps at 18 years old, they told me the fact that I had asthma, I couldn't join. So, I had a different plan on my career. But, the 4 to 6 hours of physical training I did every single day in my youth really changed my life, and it prepared me for the things as they got harder. Especially the last physical challenge I had when I was injured by training in Israel. And I was injured so badly that I couldn't walk for 7 years. And during that time, I'd gone to 13 doctors and they told me I'd never walk again. And it was an issue of just all day training. Everything I did felt like my foot was stepping on broken glass. I lost the use of my hands. So I literally became a 500-hour yoga instructor because I knew that mobility would help. I became the CSCS strength coach, and I know Reggie's got lots of experience with them. The people that actually train the strength and conditioning for pro athletes. And I did it because I knew that, plus all-day physical therapy, plus yoga, plus, fighting through pain, I'd be able to do something else again. So yeah, that martial arts for me, it was all I wanted to be was like the ultimate warrior. And I don't know, somehow that turned into medicine, we're turned into tech, which is a totally unique story, but that's the key, all I ever wanted to be was like a Navy SEAL or a Force Recon Marine.
So is it fair to say that focus, that determination that you developed with the martial arts and the training that you were doing, you kind of carried over into your professional career as you got older? Is that
Every part of my life, Chris, has been based upon what I learned from martial arts. Whether it was Taekwondo or whether it was Shotokan, especially in Shotokan, where they'd have us sit in a quiet room and contemplate and literally visualize what we were doing in our head before we did it. That attitude, that fight to never quit, that never quit until you win and never lose. Because in martial arts, loss can mean death.
Yeah.
So I was just trained to go until I couldn't go anymore and then fight a little harder. So I applied that to my career, my ridiculous way, how I went through college. I applied it, to tech and was a principal architect within 2 years of the time I decided to start tech. And it was all based on that laser-like focus that I got to try and play in my sport.
I hear focus and determination seems a
That's
string
the-
that's tying through everything.
Yeah, that's
See,
the common denominators to that.
Somebody back there, Mike.
Yeah, we've got a beautiful little girl. Her name is Cindy back there. You can see her by the tree.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
I adopted this cat from my wife, and this cat's become like the cruelest thing. It sits with me, it follows me everywhere, sleeps with me at night. Great friend.
So I wanted to emphasize something here, and Reggie's a little humble, I can tell, which is good.
Yeah.
But so just to give everybody some perspective, we've mentioned that Reggie's played professional football in the National Football League. There are 53 active roster slots on a team in the NFL. There are 32 teams. I can't do quick math, but somewhere around 1,500.
Yeah, it was roughly 1,600.
1,600? Yeah. Around 1,600 active players. I'm guessing probably 15 or 20 reserve or injury slots probably. Mm-hmm. So round that up to 2,000 probably at any given time. 2,000 people in a country of 375 million people.
Yep.
So when we talk about what it takes to be elite,
yeah,
that whoever can do percentages, I'll let you do those percentages.
Yeah. All the statistics that it takes, or those that don't make it, and how far it took. Yeah.
So that's why we wanted to bring Reggie in to have this conversation, because he reached his goal. He reached a level that not many people reach, and so that's why we wanted to bring him in. And then I know Elonzo's got some other questions. I did see a question that I want to get to in the chat box, and I want to bring it up because I said I was going to find a way to ask this question, but somebody asked it for me. But because I think you might have talked about this earlier, or if you didn't, you talked about one of them. Michael asked, "What's your fondest professional memory?"
Wow.
So, I like that question.
Yeah.
If you feel like sharing that.
To answer your question, Michael, for me, it would probably be thus far. It would be my first touchdown. That experience was something that really brought everything full circle for me, and even on the journey of crossing the threshold of the goal line, I try to describe it as like almost a time lapse of, like we're talking about, all that focus, all that determination, all that hard work that went into me getting actually to that moment, kind of flashed before my eyes. And actually it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was my second year in the league. Yeah. And
the Panthers and the Jaguars. There you go.
It was a pretty close game. And up until that point, this kind of ties into another thing of always being ready. And that's why focus is, once again, always so important, because up until that moment, I was the second string running back behind Christian McCaffrey. Within this season, he had rushed for 1,000 yards and received for 1,000 yards. So needless to say, he was on the field a lot, right? So me being right behind him, I may not have always been out on the field making those plays and doing those things, but I had to be focused and dialed in into knowing what was going on. And that particular game, things were, going great. A pretty long touchdown prior to me scoring on a similar play. And actually coming to the sideline, we addressed it and knew this was a weakness in our defense. And he ended up going out with the injury. And I came in, and literally within like 2 or 3 plays, I broke for a 60-yard touchdown. And it was a very pivotal moment in the game. I think maybe 2 minutes left in the game, and we were down trailing at that point in time, and ended up, busting through the hole. And 60 yards later, we had a Carolina touchdown, and we ended up winning that game. And that was, my family was there, and they happened to be there for that particular weekend as well. So I got to celebrate it with them.
Oh, that's a win-win. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It was an awesome experience, and I got to keep the ball, and everything that you would imagine in scoring your first NFL touchdown was wrapped up in that moment. So I would have to say that sticks out to me for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's probably got to be one of those things that you, as that 5 or 6 year old running around in the park, you were that cliche, game's on the line, 2 minutes left in the game, down by however many points you're down. Reggie's got the ball.
Exactly. And believe it or not, I think there's a clip, but obviously me being out there, I'm not listening to the commentators and things of that nature. But literally prior to that play being snapped, one of the commentators were suggesting that they didn't need as many eyes focused on me because I wasn't the player that just came out. And like literally the next play, he kind of had to eat his words and say that I ended up scoring a touchdown. So
isn't that so wonderful when you say you slept on me? Wake up,
So
it's kind of a wonderful feeling.
So
I always love that when nobody sees you coming and then poof, you're there.
Yeah.
But I really like that you said you were always ready.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the Coast Guard motto, Semper Paratus, always ready. But yeah, the key of being always ready and prepared, that's one key trait for success.
And I think that works really well into our next question, because I was thinking, because Reggie had told a lot about what he had to do. He has to stay ready. He has to be focused. And I think with this question, Reggie, what do you think, based on your excellence as a pro football player, what's going to be the difference between a casual player and being in your position? What are those differences?
Well, it goes back to everything that got not only me but any high achievement athlete or elite businessman to that point, which is continuous focus and continuous determination and everything that even got you to that point. I think it's one thing to reach a level that is deemed a success, but it's even harder to not only stay there but to keep climbing, right? So those same distractions that you might have had, let's just say as a young adolescent, those might not be the same distractions that you face now, right? So distractions come in all different, shapes, sizes, and situations. So I think for me, and I would love to hear maybe what Mike has to say about this, but for me, it's just continuously staying focused on the goal and never letting that kind of waver. No matter how much success you have, there's more that can be achieved.
Yeah, absolutely, Reggie. It's picking a goal and doing everything you can to get to that goal. And as soon as you get that goal, set a better goal and a better goal, but in that same thing. And, how focused am I? Chris has to send me text messages at 10:30 that says, stop working and go to bed, Mike. Because I'm still thinking about stuff. And, Chris and Elonzo are getting these messages from me from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And they're like, Mike, shut off. You're too focused. So, yeah, there's the key. So, focus is everything. The more focused you are, the better you're going to be there. I saw this visual one time. And you see an office building. And you see one light in this tall office building. And in the visual, they said, don't blame me for having more and being better. I'm the only one here working right now. And that's the key. It's that outwork. It's that focus. It's you had that dream and you ran toward it and you gave it everything you got. And look where you're at. Somebody actually did the math for us, and it's pretty impressive. You were in the top, hold on, 0.00000025% of the population that's tried to play football and get to your goal. That's how special you are. And that didn't come by accident. That came from hard work and dedication, you know. I am sure you played till you were sick at one point, trained in the gym until you were physically sick at some point. I'm sure you did.
Definitely.
And if you try to explain that to somebody else, would they even understand?
No. That's why oftentimes I like, obviously with the people that I do it alongside understand, but sometimes it's hard to even put into words, to be honest.
And you know, from a strength and conditioning perspective of people like Reggie, this is a game, and I don't watch as much of the game as I wish I could because of timing, but it's a game of seconds and inches. To be able to be a tenth of a second faster than somebody else, that doesn't happen by accident. I mean, that happens by diligence every day doing the right thing and not the wrong thing. You do the wrong training in season, off season, you're overtrained and your performance goes down. So you just can't go, hey, this feels like fun to go swimming today. You can't do it. You got to tailor your entire life to it. And the amount of respect that I have for you to be able to do that is extraordinary.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, the determination. Like when you want to be with your friends, when you want to go out, when you want to do what you want to do, but you focus on what you have to do, and you know you're mad about it. But I know that drive, I guess for me, it's like that drive, that quick moment of satisfaction versus that long-term goal when you want it right now and you still have to invest and you still have to push past. And I think about what it takes to do that. I mean, a lot of people can start off a certain way, but to go the distance and to keep going forward when you don't want to, you're sick, gotta train. I'm tired, gotta train. I'm missing out on family, gotta train. They're having fun, I gotta go out of town, train. And it's like that takes something that I don't think a lot of people are born with, or if they are, they don't know how to channel it long enough to see that goal through. And like case in point, your workouts. Say, for instance, you're going hard in the gym or you're doing a calisthenics and you really got to push yourself to the point of no return that day. And you still got to come back and do that tomorrow. And especially when you have a coach that's driving you, you have the team that's relying on you, and you know that it's not just about you, it's about the team, and you have to push yourself forward. So I'm thinking like, what on a workout basis, what would that look like for you? Like strength and conditioning, your recovery, your specific training format. How would that look, and how does that help you focus to move to get that next level that you want to get to?
Yeah, so there's multiple. It's a lot similar to even things regarding technology, right? So there are multiple tiers and multiple phases that you go through, right? And there are different things that happen at different points of the year that call you to turn things up, but you're always prepared for that time when it comes, right? And just to give you the most dynamic of those would be typically around after off-season training, leading up into training camp. That's the most demanding part of any professional experience, that regardless of the sport, that's when you really put in the hard work, right? But the things that you have to do leading up to that, a day in the life of a training camp, you probably wake up close to 6 o'clock or earlier, depending on any injuries or ailments that may hinder you from performing that you need to address. But you'll have meetings, similar meetings as to any CEO would have, starting at 8 o'clock. You probably typically have those discussing different areas from anywhere between an hour to 2 hours. Instantly after that, you would head towards going to perform on the field for roughly physically demanding practice that may hit you close to 85, 90 degrees plus humidity for close to 2 hours. Right immediately after that, coming in, showering, kind of recovering, like we stated, having to focus just as hard on recovering as you do actually doing the demanding work that goes into it. After that, you might have a short period of time to, talk to family or just kind of decompress. Oftentimes, I like to meditate and kind of just take a deep breath and relax mentally and physically. And then from there, probably from, let's just say 4 o'clock to 9:30, once again, you'll be in meetings. And this is a continuous schedule for roughly 2.5 weeks leading up into having preseason games and then going straight into your season. So you're looking at a lot of just day in, day out, repetitive, very detail-oriented, high demanding focus with little margin of error every day. And it's very demanding, but a lot of it starts on the mental plane because, like I said, once you're strong mentally, that allows your body to push its limits and perform at an elite level.
Okay. So when it comes to, say, for instance, the season, do you have incremental goals within that overall umbrella of the goals that you have on a seasonal basis? Or because ultimately you've gotten there, you're an NFL star, you're an NFL player, you're doing what 0-0-0, that's like 11 nines of durability. That's the serious thing right there. So when you get to that, you break down these seasons, what are your incremental goals? Are there anything that you like to look for to make yourself that 1 inch closer to the goal line of success?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things, not only for myself, but also for my team. And being a team player and football being the ultimate team sport, a lot of the things that drive me to be my best are the things that allow me to be there for my team as well. So for me, how can I be, like Mike said, how can I be that much faster? It may not be a lot faster given the fact that I'm already probably faster than 99% of the people in the world, right? So once again, we're talking about milliseconds, we're talking about inches and seconds. So once again, it just becomes almost an obsession, like a relentless obsession to just want to improve and develop and just continue to sharpen that blade to be your best self.
Yeah, I definitely get that. What about you, Chris?
So I want to. I feel like I'm the guy that's. I feel like I'm the guy that's coming in and saying, "Let's pivot to Mike." So let's pivot to Mike. I got a question. I got to keep everybody on their toes, including myself. I mean, we could. Don't get me wrong. I got so many questions that I could. We're
trying not to inundate Reggie.
but to keep in line with the topic of the show, we're picking Reggie's brain about his experience as an elite athlete, and seeing how that compares with what it takes to be elite in other professional type roles, not just professional, not as just a professional athlete, but in other professional careers. Just as a cloud architect, for example, or as a business owner, or as a chief technology officer, or as the manager of a 400-room resort. What it takes to be elite. There's a lot of the things that Reggie has been talking about, while they're shaped and discussed in the frame of athleticism, it's all applicable to any aspect in any career in life. So again, let's pivot to Mike.
Yeah. Let's see what Mike says.
So Mike, I keep going back in time here because we started off with back in time with Reggie. So let's go back in time and talk about what it was like for you, because you weren't always a tech professional. You weren't always the owner of a organization. You weren't always in tech. You were in medicine before that, and before medicine, you were in school, and before you were in school, you were growing up in Philadelphia. So what? Let's go back to what it was like for you when you were going to college. I know what you've shared with me. I know what that experience was like, but share what that was like
Yeah,
for our audience.
absolutely. So I had grown up in very limited means, and that's totally fine. My family was well off enough that I didn't qualify for any kind of financial support, but poor enough that we couldn't afford for me to go to school. And I knew that to get to the next stage of my life, I needed an education. I didn't know what that was going to be like. I had worked for a couple of years as an EMT, an emergency medical technician on the ambulances, and I loved it while I was going to school, and I decided I was going to be a nurse. If I could see the end of the tunnel, 2-3 years, I'd be done school, I could support a family, and then I could go study some more and do something a little more substantial. But I knew that was my ticket out. But I couldn't afford school. And back in 1992, when I was in school, tuition was $8,000 a year. And $8,000 a year when you had a job that paid $7 an hour was like kind of like, how is this ever going to happen? So what I literally did is I worked 3:30 to 11 every day, Monday through Friday. It was supposed to be 3 to 11, but the chief allowed me to work as a paramedic and then as an EMT and then as a paramedic from 3:30 to 11 because he knew I was in school. 3 days per week, I also worked 11 to 7. In fact, there were some days where we had late calls that I would show up to school in a firefighter uniform in the middle of class, and the teachers would be like, "You look like," and I'm like, "Please excuse me." I had patients all night. They kept dialing 911. It's not exactly like I got my beauty sleep, but it's the only way I can go to school. I even remember being in an anatomy class and having the anatomy professor say, "Mike, you never come to class. I'm sure you're going to fail the exam." But I was so focused on studying, I had the highest score in the entire class. And there were like 300 people in that class because all I did was study. I then also, to make sure I could afford things, worked a double shift on Saturday and Sunday. So I had 2 full-time jobs while going to school. Now, I'm going to tell you, that was not fun. But, I knew the SEALs had a model that the only easy day was yesterday, and that you could do anything, and that if you're going to accomplish something great, you eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I went, let me just get through this day.
Yeah.
In that day, okay, I got to stay up for another hour. Hopefully nobody dials 911 tonight and I can go to sleep. And every once in a while, we'd have those nights where I could get a full night's sleep instead of the usual 2 or 3 hours that I had for those almost 4 years straight. But it was what it was. But I learned a lot out of that. By the time I got done school, there had been a nursing freeze back in 1995, 1994, whatever that time was. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. And there had been some insurance changes and some policy changes, and doctors were quitting. They were all going to business school. Nurses stopped going to school because they weren't getting hired, and I was still in school. I graduated school, and I had a job within a week because I had such capabilities from all the unrelated experience I had on the ambulance. And when people would talk to me, they were like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "You're like a 22-year-old kid, but you seem like you're 50. And when I explained to them how I got there, they were just like, "Okay, I need you on my team." So it was a little rough, and that's how I paid my way through some nursing school. And it was all about focus and determination. I like to call it mental toughness. Other people call it grit. If you won't quit, you're always going to win. And sometimes I'm like Reggie. I hate losing more than I like winning. I hate to lose.
Yeah.
And I will fight to the death not to lose in an honest and ethical sort of way, but I hate it. And, every time there was an obstacle in my way, it's like, all right, I beat this last 20. I'm going to beat this one too. But yeah, I wasn't always in tech. I became a nurse first and then a nurse practitioner afterwards. I had my own internal medicine office and everything.
Wow.
But It was all about focus, determination, and never quitting. Nothing in my life came easy. Nothing. I've had to fight for everything. And it was a fight, but I'm happy to fight. I've trained to fight in my martial arts. And whether it was Taekwondo or Shotokan or Krav Maga or Jiu-Jitsu or Eskrima or some other arts that I won't talk about, my whole life was based on fighting and fighting and fighting. So I like to fight. I'm a fighter, just like Reggie. Why do you think he's in that top 0.00025%? Because he never quit until he got there.
You left a few zeros off there.
Yeah, quite a few.
You left a few zeros off there.
Okay,
Yeah, let's
durability right
put
there.
it back up. 0.00000. My eyes are blurring. 7 zeros? 1, 2, 3,
7
4.
zeros.
7 zeros, 2, 5. So, thank you for sharing that. So again, I mean, it's about the focus and the determination. But there's something that popped in my head while you were talking, Mike. You went from focus and determination to grit and perseverance to mental toughness. So the important part of that is the focus.
Yes.
You can work your butt off for I was about to use the wrong word. You can work your butt off, and exhaust yourself and have a lot of grit and get a lot of things done, but find yourself in the same place after putting all that energy in for years.
And that's a good point. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were finished there. It's always hard to tell, and that's a really good point. In my 25 years as a career coach, you know what I've seen? A lot of really great people that work really hard, but they don't focus on the right things. They learn everybody else's job instead of their own. And in the end, they're like amateurs. You don't have someone elite like Reggie. He's not doing, well, actually, ballet might be beneficial, but he's not running marathons one day. He's not a competitive swimmer the next day. He's not playing soccer the day after that and baseball the day after that. He's focused on how to be the best at his world.
Right.
Same thing in tech. An architect's an architect. They're not a programmer. They're not an engineer. They're not a Devops engineer. They're not a developer. They're an architect. And when people do this and they start learning everybody else's job, they become horrible at the one job because they didn't lose their focus. So yeah, focus is everything, because there's lots of people that work hard, but it's working hard at the right thing. Reggie's not in the gym doing bicep curls, I promise you that. But he's doing some pretty heavy squats and deadlifts and power cleans, I can tell you that. And I can tell you the speed that he can move these bars with incredible power to be able to do that job. And because he's doing the right thing, he's not doing lateral raises either. He's not trying to gain 20 pounds so he can flex on the beach and have beach muscles. Bodybuilding is not strength and conditioning. It's a totally different thing. And the strength and conditioning for a baseball player would not work for him. Different sport. So whatever your career is, sport-specific training or the specificity of your training, how close the training matches what you want to do, will determine how fast you get to your goals or whether you won't.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. And you think about like case in point for Reggie and for you, you started at point A, and let's not have any illusions that it was a straight line. You know, you've had obstacles, you've had your joys, you've had your pains, you've had your setbacks even, and that equates to some definition of pain that would either debilitate you or it would fuel you further on. So based on whether it was training, and I understand and I know what you went through when you trained in Israel and what the outcome was. But for Reggie, you think about injuries on the play. You think about injuries during practice or any time that happened. When you face that adversity, Reggie, and I'll definitely want Mike to answer as well, how do you get through the pain? What keeps you focused past that to create that durability within yourself?
And I also want to piggyback on this, because I don't want to talk about just what drives you, but if you could if you feel like it, share with us maybe some experience or some story of having played through some adversity, whether it be a single instance in a game or a situation that developed over a period of time that created an adverse situation for you, whether it be pain, injury, difficulty, or whatnot.
However it manifested.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is a great topic to touch on, and if I can, I would like to touch on both of them, and I'll start with the physical pain, right? So, in my career, roughly 2 years ago, once again, things were going well. This was kind of around the period where there weren't any fans at the stadium, right? And I had an experience to where we were having a good game, closing the game out, and ended up spraining my ankle and having a pretty high ankle sprain, right? And if anybody knows, for an athlete, that's probably like the worst news to hear, just because the recovery process and how important the ankle is as far as just the structure and things regarding your chain up from working at your feet all the way up to your hips, knees. There's a lot of things that are connected in that area. So from there, I had to start from square one. It hurts. So a lot of times you have to feel through a lot of different emotions, a lot of frustrations. But once again, that focus is what's going to kind of drive you to where you want to go. And that's more of the physical pain. And obviously, I recovered from that, and I was surrounded by people that allow me to do, like Mike says, do the right things, to focus on the right things, to prepare me to be back to where I was and even stronger than before. And then to transition over to more different type of pain that you might not necessarily think about, like when that question is posed. But early in my career in college, believe it or not, I was playing quarterback at the time, and roughly 2 games into my first semester and being a freshman in college, unfortunately, my dad passed away suddenly, right? So I had to deal with that type of pain, along with, my journey in being a student athlete at the time in college, and, navigate that process of losing somebody that was so close to me and so influential in, my everyday life, along with our relationship and bond that we had created through sports. And from that was a lot too. But looking back on it, it really forced me to, deal with that. But also, it made me become a better person, and it allowed me to even be more focused on the things that I was handling and the goals that I wanted to achieve, just because I knew that would be something that he wanted from me, and things that we had talked about quite a bit while he was still with us.
Yeah, that's when you have someone close, and you think about how they've really gave you that foundation to be who you are today. And then I guess that memory of, because I know I lost my dad too, and being able to realize the lessons that they taught you, and it helps to, even though they're gone, but it helps to prepare you and propel you forward into your dreams, because what they did to help you when you started on that journey, and how much it means to them looking down on you to see where you are today. That kind of, for me, it helped to assuage a lot of the pain. But they're missing. But the thing is, look at what they've done. Look at how far you've gotten, and how proud that they are, to see what you've become. And that fills me with joy. And I'm sure that it equates the same with you. And like, say, for instance, with Mike, with his journey of becoming more of who he is, how did you, and if this is something that you can touch on, Mike, is there a pathway to how you ended up in Israel? What was the overall goal for that? And how, in the aftermath, were you able to fight through that pain?
Okay, so I'll
I
tell
know
you
that
how
was a
I,
lot. I know.
Let me get the sensors ready here. All right,
okay, so I'll tell you how I actually ended up in Israel.
you're making my job difficult, Elonzo.
I know. I'm trying not to, man.
So I studied a lot of martial arts in my life. Krav Maga, the fighting style of the Israeli Defense Forces, was one of them. And I spent so much time training in that, in my early 30s, I had a goal to get an age waiver and join the Navy SEALs, since that's all I ever really wanted to do. So I was swimming a couple miles each day. I was running. Each day I do 300 to 500 pull-ups, and same thing with push-ups and dips and squats. So I was all kinds of fit. And I was doing 4 hours a day of martial arts, 2 hours of classes, and 2 hours of private lessons. And I wanted to learn from the best where they started it. So right before I went into Israel, I actually had really hurt my foot in a martial arts accident. And I said, that's okay. I'm still going to Israel and I'm still going to train. Now, on the way to Israel, we actually stopped at our house in Greece, the family home. And the gym, and then we were there for like 3 weeks. I was going to use that as healing time, but I couldn't get out of shape before I was going to go train 8 to 12 hours a day with these guys in Israel. So we literally would find a way to hobble on the way to the gym. I'd work out at the gym because even though I couldn't walk without pain, I could still do squats and deadlifts and standing things as long as my foot didn't burn. And I remember one day my foot hurt so bad that we were about 1 kilometer away, basically 3/4 of a mile away from there between the gym and our house. And the ocean was full of jellyfish that I swam like the distance home through the jellyfish because it hurt less to get stung by the jellyfish than it actually did to walk home. But they had this gel that you could put on your foot. It was this anti-inflammatory gel in Greece. It was called Voltaren gel. It wasn't in the US anymore at the time. Now it is. And I'd put that stuff on my foot. I'd tape up my foot, and we went to Israel and we trained. And we trained literally 8 to 12 hours a day. I shattered my foot in completely, tore ligaments in my foot, plus had a turf toe injury in my foot, and continued to train with it because how often do you get to train with the best of the best, the founders of this martial art? And I trained with it until my foot turned purple and I couldn't use it. And then I lost the use of my hand. I ended up with this neurological thing called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. So then, I was told I'd never walk again. I'd lose the use of all hands. So that turned into 7 years of 8-hour-a-day physical therapy. But the key is, how did I end up in Israel? Because I wanted to be a SEAL. That's pretty much all I ever wanted to do in my life. Either be a SEAL, be a doctor. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't until that I started this company and started watching people getting hired every single day of the week. And even today, there was 2 of them. That I ever got past that I could help people by doing something other than, being a sniper.
So now everybody sees the stubbornness that I have to put up with every day. Every single day. This is
determination and grit, Chris.
Stubborn determination. Okay. All right.
You know what? I'm going to add to this so people really get to see what you two deal with each day for a minute. So, if I walk into a doctor's office, they'll say to me, "What would you like for pain?" And I'll tell them I don't want to become an addict, so nothing. Here's literally what I have to do every day just to work. I have one room in my house that's got 2 sauna heaters in it. I heat it up to a 130-degree room. And I practice yoga in that because it opens up my tissues, which close too much from this disorder. Then when I'm done that, my body closes the blood vessels to my limbs because my body with this neurological condition doesn't know it needs it. So after 90 minutes of yoga, and yoga is a lot harder than you would think in a 130-degree room, I then get into my sauna, which is 158 degrees, and spend an additional 90 minutes in there. I drink 4 gallons of water a day, and I'm still dehydrated constantly. And that's what it takes. It takes a minimum of 3 hours of physical training just for me to be able to sit in this chair and have a conversation like this.
And guess who's got to remind him to do half of this?
Right.
These guys right here. It's like Mike. Go do PT. Mike, did you eat? Mike, did you do this?
Get off
no,
the phone,
I gotta do this.
Put the phone down, Mike. Yeah.
And my team is so good about this. I had spoke so much trying to help people with private calls and things like this that I literally ended up not being able to speak for 4 months straight. I had to text message my wife, so I had to learn a little bit too that I am not 21 years old.
Stubborn determination. Stubborn determination.
It's a nice mixture of both. I think you have to be stubborn and to some degree
Yes.
with yourself to be elite. You have to be. There's something about that. It's a dynamic.
Yeah. So I want to pivot from here. I'm going to pivot back to Reggie since we pivoted.
Good.
I'm not always pivoting to Mike. I'm going to pivot to Reggie this time. So that's going to be my keyword of the day: pivot. All right. So Reggie, we actually before the show we were talking, and you had you were telling us about a story that I thought it was a great story. Not just the lessons from the story. I mean, there's stories and then there's this story. But so I'm going to frame this in the same way that I've got this out of you the first time. We were talking about adversity, kind of in the same way that we were talking about playing through pain, but playing through adversity. There's different aspects of it. There's situations that happen where it could be like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. This happened. I'm out of here. And it kind of ties back to the what's the difference between the casual player and the elite people? What gets those people to that level? And one of the things is the adversity and how they deal with that adversity. So if you could share that story, if you want, that you were, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like I said, I loved it. I thought it was great. And please take as long as you want to tell it, because it's a full blown biopic in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of pieces to it, and I'm more than glad to share it. So just to give our listeners a little bit of backstory, in college and even leaving high school, I've always was recruited and looked upon during that process as a quarterback. All right, which is, for people that aren't fans, I know this is a global platform. Basically, I was considered a young amateur aspiring position, and that's what I had all my focus predicated towards, right? And decided to stay at home and attend my hometown university, which is the University of Louisville, and which is in Louisville, Kentucky, and which was an opportunity that a lot of people from my environment, my family, never had the opportunity to do. So I took it upon myself to stay home, and I felt that a sense of pride to represent my hometown, and that's what I did. Continued to be a quarterback and achieved goals that I had set out, which were to not only be the starting quarterback of that team, but lead that team in that position. So my freshman year, along with the loss of my father and things of that nature, I achieved that goal and started and had a good amount of success my freshman year. Some people notoriously remind me all the time of us playing Notre Dame as a true freshman and going to their senior day and upsetting them and coming home with a victory, which was our first time in school history having that meeting. So there was a lot of history behind that, and something that school fans and just people in my hometown and just fans in general really are happy about, right? So going into that next season, focus and improve on the things that I wanted to improve on from the year past. Things were looking really good for me. Returning, having some experience early, kind of getting my feet wet, and the sky's the limit ahead. And the class that comes, every year there's somebody coming in a little younger, right? So the incoming class had a guy that, if you're a fan of football, you might have heard before, by the name of Lamar Jackson. And up until that point, he was hosting him on his visit. He was just like any new recruit that comes in. He was just, typically just one of the guys. And, he's even attested to this as to him just thinking that he was going to learn behind me and, kind of soak up the game, so to say, and me hand him off the reins once my time was done. And leading up even until the first game of my sophomore year, that had been the case. And during that game, it's all going to come together. I hate that it's such a long story, but there's a lot to take from it, right?
Right.
So yeah, so that first game, things are going well, and there was just one play in particular. There was a bad exchange by myself and the running back that I was handing the ball over to, and it happened to be a fumble. And the other team ended up picking the ball up. I'm kind of scrambling around looking for it. And by the time I understand what's going on, they're probably, 15, 20 yards down the field. And due to our team standards, my coach wasn't pleased with my effort, which I understood as him being basically the CEO of our company or our team, right? And me being an intricate part of that, being the quarterback, which is basically the coach on the field. So by his my unsatisfactory effort, he took me out of the game and replaced me with Lamar Jackson, which in turn, in the second half of that game, put on a great show, ran for 100 yards and threw for 100 yards. And by watching him in that game, I kind of knew that, my opportunity and my position had been taken by somebody who was performing better than me, right? So at that point, I had to address a difficult situation as far as, what my next steps were. Did I want to leave? Did I want to stay and face this? Was I ever going to play again? And, after having conversations with my family and close friends and my relationship with God, something told me to just stay, right? Not knowing what would come out of that, and ended up changing positions. So my sophomore year, I really got it any way I could, right? Any way I could get on the field, that's what I did. And, I still had some success that year. Come back my junior year, I played receiver. And, due to my athletic ability, I was able to play. I started, had some success, and was feeling comfortable about coming back my senior year and building on that, right? Leading up to my senior year, just due to all the adversity that I had been throughout my career thus far, there was multiple injuries at running back during that point in time in the year where you weren't able to get any more players. So no more running backs were available, and there was a big scrimmage practice that we had to partake in. And my coach brought me in the office and asked me would I be open to playing running back for the scrimmage with our number one team, right? And up until that point, I had no experience playing running back or any understanding of what needed to be done. But me being the team player that I am, obviously I want to help benefit the team. So go out to the scrimmage alongside Lamar Jackson at a whole totally different position, standing right next to him, right? And we go out and put on a show. And from that moment on, I was the starting running back, had a decent season my senior year, which led me to the opportunity to go into the NFL, right? Up until this point, obviously, I'm kind of a jack of all trades as far as scouts looking at me from the professional level, and weren't sure about how I would fit, but knew that I was a very athletic kid and, was able to make plays with the ball in my hand. So luckily, the Carolina Panthers took a chance on me, gave me an opportunity to join their team, and gave me an invite to training camp. Once again, focus, put in the work. Very, very new environment, very new playbook. So it was almost like speaking another language. I had to relearn from square one, right? And it's funny, just to bring everything back, our last game in the preseason, which is kind of like an opportunity for guys such as myself to show off their talents and kind of flash and show something on tape. It was the last game, and up until this point, I never had an opportunity to show what I could do, right? And I didn't know how I was going to be able to do that. And there was an interception that happened, and kind of gave me deja vu of the experience that I had in college, losing my position to Lamar. So flashed in front of my eyes, and I saw this opportunity to run down the person this time instead of giving some questionable effort that could potentially end my career, right? So there was no chance without me making the decision that I could get this guy from all the way across the field, me taking such a drastic angle just to even have a chance, right? But I had to give it everything I had, just like we're saying, due to the seconds and inches. And literally ran for close to 75, 80 yards and caught this guy on the 1 yard line. And by doing that, it was so impressive to the coaches in the front office and everybody in that stadium, even myself after the fact, but caught the attention of the people that needed to, see that, to give me an opportunity to be on the practice squad that year. And then from there, learning and being around some of the professionals that you may know or may have on your fantasy team in the past. And from there, built on that and came back the following year, which was my second year in the NFL, and joined that group of 1,600 people that make that 53-man roster, and kind of just went from there. Just to go to the point of this whole live that we have, is just that focus and that determination and just sticking through tough obstacles that, like, you never know really why things might necessarily be happening. Obviously, in my experience, years apart. But if I would have never learned from that experience that I had prior to it showing up again, I would have never been able to take advantage and capitalize on something that I've ended up making a career out of.
That's awesome. That story, I love that story.
Yeah, when I heard that, when you shared that with me earlier, I was just like, oh my gosh, because I mean, I'm from the South. Let me just put it that way. So football is like I'm from Mississippi. I'm Ole Miss all day long. So
my grandma's from Mississippi as well.
Okay, what part of Mississippi is she from? Do you know?
Woodland, Mississippi.
What is it?
Woodland, Mississippi.
Woodland.
Yeah. So
okay.
it's like, I believe, like, I've looked it up myself. I think there's like one stop sign.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, is it Woodland or Woodville?
No, yeah, it's like Woodland, Mississippi.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
It's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
I love those places.
Most of our towns are in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. Usually have the best food, though.
Yeah, exactly. But so, I mean, I'm from the South, so like football is everything. But so I know, and if a lot of people in the U.S. follow football, what he just talked about him, if you don't mind, I'm going to dissect this because this is
break it down, because they need to understand how much distance he closed before he got there.
His freshman year of college, he beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame is like Manchester United, like Chelsea, like Real Madrid, like Juventus. We're talking, if we're talking monster, other football, Notre Dame it's Notre Dame. That's all you got to say. And you beat them on their senior night at Notre Dame, so
at home.
He's on top of the world. He is on top of the world as far as Louisville Cardinal football goes. And I'm assuming through the off season and the spring practice and spring scrimmage, you're like, you're it. You're the guy. And you got this all-star recruit behind you who's ready to not take over, but take over when you're finished. Like, so everybody's like, yeah, we got Reggie, and then we got Lamar. We got Reggie, we got Lamar. And then first game of the season, first game of the season, there's a fumble. And by the time Reggie realizes where everything is, all the action is too far away where he can do anything. So, for lack of a better term, I'm going to be a little harsh here. You mailed it in. You half butted it. That's what you said. You kind of jogged. You didn't really put in any effort to try and salvage the play. Mm-hmm. And the coach didn't like that, and the coach took that opportunity away from you. And you saw You saw it disappearing in front of your eyes. As a sophomore, 19 years old.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. A lot of, and I know Reggie knows this, and Elonzo knows this, and Mike, and so many people, that would have been the end. For so many people, they would have just, that would have been it. Nowadays, see, you didn't have the transfer portal back then. Nowadays, somebody would have just been like, no, I'm just going to sit on the bench for the rest of the season. Then I'll transfer out to somewhere else. I'm going to give up here and go somewhere else and find someone else that's going to make me happy and appease me right now because I want to be appeased right now. But he was a team player.
Yeah.
And he had focus and he had determination. And so he's like, okay, whatever it takes. He's the guy that decided to stay at Louisville. I don't know, you didn't share, but I'm assuming there was at least some other opportunities outside of Louisville that you had that you could have taken.
Yeah.
But you chose Louisville. So you're like, I'm here. I chose Louisville. I'm committed to this. I'm determined to do something here. You did it.
Definitely.
And
he could have quit anytime.
Sure.
You think about how hard, when winning's easy, but when you have to take that loss and you have to suck it up and continue on, that's the hallmark of someone that's determined and that's elite. Because when you're on top, it's real easy to take it all in, but when you have to build that back up and you have to get back to the top, that takes even more mental toughness, more determination, more stubbornness, if you will. You gotta fight the mental and physical demons to get there. You made a mistake, and I'm sure people wouldn't let you forget that you made that mistake. But you moved past that and you got to where it was, and then they slept. You had to shake them up and let them know, I'm here, I did this. And that's the same thing with Mike. It's just like, you went through that adversity. You went through the fire.
And then 3 years later, or 3.5, because it's preseason. So now we're sophomore to junior, junior to senior, senior to preseason. So 3 years later, he's now at the end of the line. This is it. He hasn't had an opportunity. He's in the preseason. Preseason, they haven't cut it down to 53 men yet. I don't think they.
So they cut it from 90 to 53.
Wow. So that's
So he's got to beat out
attrition.
He's got to beat out 37 other people for that 53rd spot, and he hasn't had the opportunity. And then the opportunity presents itself.
Boom. Yeah.
You never know how it's going to come. Like I would have never guessed that it would have been me making a tackle, which I could probably count on both of my hands how many tackles I've made since.
You are an offensive player.
Right.
Again, for those outside of North America, he is an offensive player. Offensive players are the ones that get tackled.
Yeah.
They don't do the tackling. So he didn't throw the interception. There was an interception thrown. And he was on the other side of the field, way away. So if we're talking soccer, he's on the other side of the pitch, and all the action is way down here, and he's a defender that runs all the way down. Well, now he's a defender, but runs all the way down the field and tackles the guy on the 1 yard line.
Wow.
Because he saw that opportunity.
Yeah.
He knew he had that, not just the opportunity, but he had the determination to make it happen.
He knew what he could he knew he could deliver. He knew what he had to offer, and he was ready to prove it. Yeah. And that takes that's that elitism right there. It's like, I know what I'm about. It's like there's no half measures there. Your lessons are learned. I'm here to prove myself, and I'm here to remind others that I'm capable of getting the job done as a team player too. And it wasn't a me situation, which makes it even more of a valuable situation. You said, for the sake of the team, let me put my best foot forward. And they were right there on that 1 yard line. I mean, I would love to see show a reel of that, of what it took.
Yeah, like I want to reach out to NFL Film and be like, hey.
I have the video, so somehow I love.
We're gonna have to see this.
I'll get that, bro.
Yeah,
that reel gotta be shown
to show everybody. But Maybe we can put something together. Or I'll post it on LinkedIn or something.
All right, so you got that. I got a question. Do you have the film from Louisville where you messed up?
I don't. So,
so I'll be reaching out to you.
Reggie.
I would love to put those two clips together just to show.
Right. I mean,
that's the key.
The story encompasses so many things.
Yeah.
So many aspects. Focus, determination, adversity, team player, the team player aspect.
Yeah.
If you hadn't
all of it,
you hadn't been a team player, you wouldn't have had the opportunity because you were a team player, you decided, okay, well, they want me at wide receiver. They need somebody at wide receiver. Okay, I'll do wide receiver.
But one of the things that we're missing as well is that it took humility for him to admit his mistake.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the courage to move forward and learn from that and apply it.
Yeah.
That's something that requires an elite to be able to learn what my limitation was for that day.
So I'm guessing
that through and learn from that. Yeah.
I'm guessing we need to bring Mama on here and thank Mama about that.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah.
Because
honestly, like that's where I gained a lot of strength from. She's had her own battles with her central nervous system as well. So I've seen just the strength and the determination that she's displayed, along with the loss of my father and things of that nature. So a lot of this, I'm just a byproduct of my parents and the upbringing that I was blessed to have with them.
See, that's what I love about the South, man. That's a
familiar piece of love. We're kind of a little far north, but there's a little bit of Southern.
There's a little bit in there, sprinkled in there. It's debatable when we start talking to the Mississippis and the Alabamas and everything, or Floridas for that matter, Texas.
I'm the only northerner here. Well, Mike is Phil. I'm from Detroit,
y'all
yeah. But I have roots down south, so for sure.
Yeah, well, Elonzo's roots are Alabama, I think, right? Or
Alabama and Arkansas.
Alabama and Arkansas.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
mine's all straight Mississippi.
I have like some Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, all that, Houston mixed up in there. So, but I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. So
that's great.
See, we down here, I act up as a kid. I got put in a trash can. Like, that's how things went. Not even by a family member. Somebody else put me in a trash can when I was acting up. And my parents were like, "Thank you."
Chris, you sound like you were the terror of the neighborhood, man.
So yeah, there's something to be said, but there's again the humility to recognize that's where that you're not a product of yourself. You're a product of others that are around you. So I'm gonna transition and take the opportunity here to, and I was gonna ask, how important is it to have a coach or a mentor or someone that, because I'm assuming obviously in high school, I'm sure if you're from Louisville, I'm sure you had at least several coaches on your football team. And when you got to college, you had an entire, armada of people. And then you get to the NFL and you've got even more. But I'm sure there was one or two that probably stuck out. And maybe not a coach, maybe just someone, maybe a mentor or a family member. But I'm sure there was multiple. But talk about that. How important is that?
Oh man, I think it's of the utmost importance. For me, I mean, I hate to even start naming names because there's been so many people that impact my life and my career as far as football is concerned that even has gotten me to this point. But to just name a few people, like just starting off once again, like with my parents, like they were my default mentors growing up, right? So I've seen the sacrifices that they've made for me to just even be in a situation to have opportunities that I could flourish in, whether that was them sacrificing for me to pay to go to a private high school and get the best education that I possibly could, or simply just going through life. But along with coaches that I had on the field, I mean, they've all contributed, right? Even if they weren't my necessarily position coach, in some shape or form, they were some type of role model for me, and just even how they conducted themselves on a daily basis, or how they went about handling their business, or just being a mentor or a good person, right? And being a coach sometimes it's oftentimes like I've always said, I'd rather not like my coach because I know he's hard on me than somebody that is going to kind of take the cookie cutter approach and not want to hurt my feelings or tell me the things that I don't want to hear. Right. So I've always leaned towards and always had the opportunity and to be around people that were tough coaches, which made me resilient and tough through hard times. Right. So all these situations that I've had gone through in my life, I think are attributed to me being around people that have been tough on me to understand that I can get through hard times as well.
I think you made an interesting point there, because you said there's different people that have had impacts at different times, probably, and in different places.
Yeah.
Especially in something like football. I think that's something that's key. Well, not just football, but sports. That is key, because you spend 4 years in one system, and then you spend 4 years in another system, and then you may not have the same system in that 4-year period.
Culture might be different.
I was going to say, I think you had that happen while you were at Louisville, if I remember correct, as far as time frame. There was a change in systems, change in coaching systems, and while you were there. And I don't know, basketball may not happen as often, but happens in professional as well. But
actually, it probably happens more often in the professional ranks.
Honestly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but just because they change doesn't mean that there's not someone that you can then find and adapt to and realize, this person is someone that I can learn from, that I can gain from, and which that happens in the professional business world as well. Your superiors change, the leadership changes, and while that coach or leader may no longer be at your institution, you may still have a connection with them outside once they're gone. So again, that may not be as applicable in the sports, but in the business world, definitely. I know from my experience, my 15 years, I've got some connections that I still work with. Not work with, but that I still look at and call or talk to. I'm like, look, yeah, no, we worked together 15 years, but you're still my top 3 of guys that I look up to, that, where you shape the way that I do things. And still, even if I don't talk to them, I talk to them in my head, if that makes sense. I'm like, how would so-and-so react to this? Or what would so-and-so tell me in this situation? Because I had that experience with them, I know I can formulate the answer based on my previous experience for the time that I was with them. So again, you mentioned there were so many of them, but that's the truth. There are so many through someone's life that they can draw from. Yeah. But I thought that was important. So
yeah, agreed. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
I've had a couple of coaches in my life, and they have made all the difference in the world. I'm going to show one, actually the 2 that applied to my career, but they've helped me with everything. When I started out my networking career, I found a senior director at the world's largest ISP, and I asked him, what does it take to be the best network engineer that you've ever seen? And he said to me, Mike, everybody wants to learn all the coolest stuff. They're all over the place. I need somebody that's just an expert on 1 or 2 things, and they know that, and they can focus on that. He said, I need a team. He said, just like any sports team where each person plays a different role, I need an expert on this. You know what? I did that. Within 2 years, I was a principal architect, a job which some people will never reach. And when they want 10 to 15 years experience. And I was there in less than 2 years. Why? I listened to the coach. He told me exactly what to do when I listened to him. You know, some people think making mistakes is the best way to learn. I think it's the worst way to learn. I don't want to make mistakes. Mistakes hurt. They cost money and time, and they keep you from getting to your goals. I asked someone and he told me, and I followed his directions like the light. Fast forward about 10 or 15 years later, I finally got a really elite enterprise architect job at Cisco. And I was assigned a mentor. Her name was Frances Dare. Frances gave me guidance on how to improve my executive presence, how to be a better leader, how to be a better presenter, how not to write like I got out of an MBA program. In fact, she sent me this book, Why Business People Speak Like Idiots. I remember it like it was yesterday. Almost overnight, I had 3 promotions. In fact, how much do I believe in a coach? Well, there's a reason I have a global coaching program and our students get hired each day, but I still have a coach. Frances Dare, I call her once a week. She's my executive coach. And anytime I'm lost, I call you 2 guys and I call Frances. And I say, what do you think about this? This is probably 15, 20 years later, and I still talk to her constantly because she's changed my life. I hope that the students that we've coached and gotten hired, that got jobs that required 10 years of experience, like our student Roy, who just got a senior solution architect job at Deloitte, also feel the benefit of a coach because it's changed my life. And that's why I do coaching, because I don't want anybody to stop. And Jermaine, it's good to see you. He was one of our students.
Congratulations again.
When Jermaine says, you know, I'm from this little tiny island in the Caribbean. That's the first thing he said to me. I'm listening to Ziggy Marley in the background. And I'm like, what's this little island? And it's like Jamaica. I'm like, oh, now we're talking. Come over, I have some bammy for you, some turmeric tea. And he didn't think that anybody would really know that little tiny island in the Caribbean. But anyway, it's there. But me, coaching is all the difference in the world.
Definitely. And just being a part of the program, I would say even guys like Jermaine, you know, my interest in getting into cloud computing, like I look at Jermaine as somebody that has become like a coach or a mentor for me to help me in this journey in my life as well. So yeah, I mean, to name off the people that have had an impact on my life, I mean, it would probably take the whole time we have.
Yeah, I think that it's critical to have coach. I mean, you can't go through life on your own. I mean, trying to figure it out on your own and fumble through life on your own.
Oh man, yeah. I think about the mistakes I made thinking I could do it on my own, and it was a mistake.
So I got a question, and you may not be able to answer this one. I think you gave a pretty succinct answer earlier with when we started talking about this, but I'm just gonna ask it just to see if you can maybe elaborate any, and if you can't, that's fine. This is kind of one of those kind of like ethereal questions. How do you stay focused?
I saw like a million thoughts run through it.
Yeah, for sure. That I think for me here recently, sometimes it's always just having a reason as to why you're doing something, right? For me as a young kid, my parents, you know, they did the best that they could. I had a wonderful upbringing, but for me, I always had aspirations of achieving a lot more than what I ever saw within my environment, right? And there was just so much you were going to see in a small town that you might see on TV, for example, right? And understanding that that's something that I want to experience for myself. And for me, I just always keep that goal in mind, right? And once I knock that domino over, there's something new that's on the horizon that, for me, that I know I want to accomplish. So for me, I think it's really just reverse engineering what it is that you want, and then working from there, because that's pretty much all I've ever done in my life, and that's what's led me to go down to even focusing and having a passion for cloud technology is simply because I know that's something that I want to do, and I know that what separates me from actually achieving that is simply nothing but hard work, dedication, and focus. So for me, it's just the reasoning behind whatever it is that you want to do.
You said something that I liked.
Okay.
The reverse engineering. I'm gonna try and dissect that for a second. When you say reverse engineering, you mean find your goal. All right, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to reach. And by reverse engineering, you mean figuring out what it takes to accomplish that, and then putting that into some type of plan.
Yeah,
And then implementing that plan.
right into practical steps
And,
that can be
yeah.
that you can mark off or
And if you didn't have that, then it would be hard to stay focused.
Yeah.
for sure. So
Sidetrack with all this other glitter on the side when the focus is the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just being strategic in what you want to accomplish, because I mean you can literally do whatever it is that you want to do, right? So like those 7 zeros that were before the 2-5, right?
Yeah.
All right. To me, just show and is a representation of just that, really, like, because that's all it took was for me to make the decision when I was 5 years old that this is what I wanted to do, and make a plan to get there and understand the process that it would take for me to get there, and be immersing myself in it enough to be successful at every point in that process to end up even giving myself a chance
I got a question, and there's a very biased and pointed question. And people are going to hear some similarities behind this question. So, when you decided that you wanted to be a professional athlete, obviously when you're 5, you let's talk about when you're in middle school, or or high school. When you decided that you wanted to be a professional athlete, were you asking your fellow teammates, how do I become a professional athlete?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Not even. Honestly, that was something for me that was tucked so far away in a safe deposit box inside of a safe, inside of another safe, that like there was one point in particular, just to let you know just how wired I've been like this since I was a young kid. I was back in my backyard shooting hoops, pretty much like any kid at that time, maybe like I would say between 9 and 11, right? And my mom comes outside and simply asks me, just because like I've always been very athletic amongst my peers, and at this time I was playing baseball at a very high level along with football, and my mom just simply walked up to me and was like, hey, Reggie, would you ever want to make it to the NFL, or is that your goal, right? And being such a young age, she still gets a kick out of it to this day. And I even chuckle at me being as old as I am now and understanding how mature that statement was that I said. But I looked at my mom and was like, I mean, yeah, Mom, but I just want to take it one step at a time.
Wow. That's for your age. I would have never.
Wow.
You knew.
Yeah. So like I said, I just kind of had a knowing about.
But you weren't trying to get advice from your contemporaries, the other teammates on your junior high football team, or your peewee, your Pop Warner football team.
And another thing, contrary to popular belief, too, I've never been the best player on my team. Like honestly, so even in high school, there were countless of guys ahead of me, like in my class, that were All-Americans, that had every school that you could ever name of, right? Knocking at their door. And I was just always a little younger, just younger, but stayed in my lane, stayed in my pace, and just ran my own marathon, right? And sometimes I wish I could even talk to myself even then, right? Because I would have told myself to believe in myself even more, just because you just never know. I would have never, in my wildest dreams, imagined that I would have accomplished the things that I have and done and met the people that I have just along that journey. So,
You know what really struck me, Reggie, is that you not only are you not going to seek advice from those that aren't qualified, but you protected your dream too.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in a safety deposit box, and then you threw it in about 4 or 5 other ones to keep it fresh, to keep it focused. You cracked it open by yourself to remind yourself on a daily basis, this is what I want to do, and that's powerful for me, man. That's amazing that you were able to preserve it from that point all the way to the NFL.
So we got a little bit more time here, and I know Elonzo and I we've got. I'm looking at the bottom 3 here on our list.
yeah.
These are the big ones. These are the game changers. So I want to make sure we give some time to them. So I'll start with the first one. So I'm going to work my way from the bottom. So we've already talked about it in your story of adversity, but have you learned lessons about being a team player as an athlete, and how would you describe those in the context of being applicable outside athletics?
Yeah. So,
sorry, I got deep questions.
You got it. You getting this?
I just think of about so many teams that I've been a part of, right? And the blessing and the opportunity you get to share with so many different people and to meet so many different people across the world. And for me, what things that I've taken away from being a part of such high achieving teams and so many for that matter is just it's always bigger than you, right? It's never really about you to kind of put it all in a conclusion, because everybody has to do. We like to say in football, there's 11 people that play on the field at one time per team, right? So a total of 22 people on the field. There's oftentimes a saying that says, just do your 111, which simply means just do your job, right? If everybody does their job at a high level, the team, we're going to be able to operate at such a different caliber than the rest, that everybody will be able to share the glory and share the victory that comes along with the team being the best, right? And something that my dad always preached was the acronym of TEAM, which means together everybody achieves more, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no I anywhere in that statement. And I think when you come from that perspective and understanding that I'm just a piece of a bigger machine, that it kind of puts things into perspective. I would be interested to hear how it may work for Mike in his experience.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And for me, it's the same kind of thing. Everything I've ever done is part of a team. There's an African proverb that I love so much, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The key is it's a team. And I think the difference where most people get stuck career-wise is they try to do it all. You can't be an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a running back, and a quarterback all at the same time. You need different bodies, different strength, conditioning, everything. And if you try to do it all, you wouldn't be good at anything. You sure wouldn't be at the pro levels. And it was the same thing for me. That was the first thing that I was given. They're like, Mike, be good at your job and learn to work with others and learn to build yourself a team on demand, because you're only going to go so far on your own. And if you try to do it all, you're going to fail at everything. So same thing for me as a team. And, whether it's with my family, for example, and my family's a small team. My brother was on this earlier. If I called him and said, Mike, I need this, he'd be on the first plane or be in his car and come from Philadelphia to Florida, and it would be so blazingly fast. Likewise, I would do the same thing for him without even thinking about it. And whether it's your family, which is your team at work, or your pro team, I don't see how you actually can achieve anything great without a team. There's no John Rambos out there. The SEALs are a team or a platoon for a reason. Pro football is a team for a reason, and architecture is a team for a reason. Nobody can do it all on their own.
Yeah.
And even right now, Chris and Elonzo, amongst the other people on my team, I couldn't do half of what I could do without them. Elonzo makes sure that my dream Chris makes sure that my dream somehow managed to work. Elonzo and make sure that I don't go off in too many crazy tangents. And he's smiling because it's true. Elonzo and I, our minds are the same.
Yeah.
The two of us will come up with the same thing. So we need somebody else that's a little different than us because we need to counterbalance us. Because if you actually knew how similar Elonzo and I thought, it would scare you. We could have just been twin brothers.
Mike, if I could ask you,
Yeah,
just as far as even selecting the people that are amongst your team, what qualities do you look at that Chris or Elonzo might have that you look at and surrounding yourself with people?
I look for the following things: trust. Trust to me is absolutely everything. Can I trust that person? 2 is, do they care? You know, every time somebody gets hired, I know how excited Chris gets, I get, Leo gets, Shell gets, and for that, they're bought in the mission. But 3, they're fighters. Everybody on my team is a fighter. Nobody's had it super easy. We've all had to climb our way out of some level of adversity at some point in our lives. And tough times make strong people. And, you know, and loyalty. Look, everybody makes mistakes. We've all made it. But knowing that person's there for you and cares about you and cares about your team and cares about your customers, to me, that's everything. I could look past a whole lot of things, but those things to me are everything. And people that know me will know my loyalty and see how much I'm willing to do for somebody that I care about as well. Great question there, Reggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good question. So I know we got to wrap it up. So now that Reggie asked a question, let me see if Reggie's got any more questions. So before we wrap it up and because I know Alonzo's got a big one to close it with. So Reggie, you got anything else for us?
Let me see what question that comes to mind.
Reggie was not prepared for questions. So
I just been kind of flowing with you guys, and they just pop up. But
yeah,
kind of even ask you or Chris, you or Elonzo. I guess I can pose it to both of you guys.
Yeah.
Both of you guys transitioned from different careers, right? How was that process? Could you guys both maybe elaborate as far as just transitioning to that? It wasn't as simple as just, I picked up and left marketing. I pick up and left.
Yeah. All right, Elonzo, I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Reggie, originally I'm from the creative director marketing side. So my passion. I love to draw. I love doing commercials. I love doing print ads and campaigns for certain cereal brands and things like that. I love to create that emotion for people, but over time, it's very demanding. It's definitely not a 9 to 5. I would find myself in think tank meetings at 12 o'clock in the morning, all to go home, get ready and work with the team to get the campaign together for the new client presentation later on that day. So we're burning the midnight oil up and down the corridors. So I knew that I was at a point where I said, I'm done. I had enough. So I wanted to find something that would fit the same or give me that same type of passion. So I did some project management work. I was a program manager. I did site reliable engineering platform for different companies. Still wasn't scratching that itch. And then I happened to get into finding out about cloud architects. Originally, it was DevOps. I said, no way, don't like the code. That's not where I'm going. So I saw cloud architecture. I said, what is this? I love tech. I get a chance to do what I love, to merge creativity, technology, and I love dealing with people. Trifecta. I am in 100%. However, I went all over the place. I went to certain companies that give you very low cost training. I went to different I was all over the place. And at the end of the day, I started learning cloud service proprietary stuff, and I still didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to get there. So I started doing additional research, came across Mike. And if anybody knows about, say, for instance, I won't name names, but if you start getting into those white papers, it reads like stereo instructions in the dark. It's just hard to understand. So I found Mike, and he demystified all of the, hey, it's Dr.
Yeah, I can't get you on camera.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to see you, Doctor.
There we go.
So
right.
I found Mike, and I saw one video. I'm looking at another one, and I'm going back to the documentation. What I had tried my very hardest to learn with an AWS certification. It took me 9 months to a year. He broke it down so plain in less than 90 days. I said, who is this dude? I need to know who he is. I need to join his class. And so over time, I started introducing myself, sharing what I could do, how I could help. I have a bit of a creative background. Is there some things that you can do? So I started showcasing my capabilities to help him move his classes forward. And I started learning and growing. And the more I learned, the more of the community that embraced me, the more I was able to be exposed to all of these cloud concepts, the more I knew where I wanted to be. And so I ended up getting a job. I ended up getting a career, but Mike invited me to come back and help with him with the company, and the rest is history. So I love that he broke it down. A lot of people in the industry, they want to complicate this process, but he flipped it on its ear. He gave us concepts that are easy to digest, easy to put together. He provides it in a great environment that I have never seen anyone else be able to create. He even teaches you things that you won't even see on the exam. So I could go on and on about it, but I'm going to drop the mic and leave it to Chris.
Thanks so much. Before we get to Chris, Dr. Johnson, it's good to see you, and thank you for being here. For those of you don't know, Dr. Johnson is two special things. One is he's Chris' father, and we're all grateful for what he did bringing us Chris. But more importantly, he's an elite business leader, and he also is a professor in the MBA program at University of Tennessee. And he does a lot of work. He comes in and teaches some of our students to increase their business acumen.
Yeah.
He's right now filming for our Elite Cloud Architect program and our How to Make More Money in Tech program to make sure our students have the best of business school world, as well as the best of hands-on practical. So Cooper, thank you for being here. It's always good to see you, and I appreciate everything you do.
It's great to see all of you. Good again. Christopher's wearing me out with all this. This is my first time to ever do this type of stuff, and Dr. Long and I are about to, we don't know if we're doing it right, doing it wrong, but we're doing it.
I made him film everything yesterday, and then I ended last night. I was like, so by the way, we're gonna have to redo it all today. So I'm making him do
toughness right there.
There you go.
But so I thought it was he's here to meet. We're working after we get off of this, but I thought it was interesting for him. I shared with Reggie earlier. Dr. Johnson was he was the faculty athletic rep for NCAA at his former university. So he had a lot of interactions with athletes and knows what it's like for them and to be a student and an athlete, and then after the student athlete experience. So I saw him pop in. I was like, come on over here. Even though you missed the whole show. We talked we asked Reggie how important it was to have a coach or a mentor. And I shared before our show, I was sharing with him, I can't remember the gentleman's name that played international and called you collect when he didn't.
That was Kiwi Dixon.
He did. So it was a former college student, that athlete. I'll let you tell the story.
Kiwi Dixon is a former athlete. He works closely with the boys club in Atlanta. and he does a lot of work with the children there. He's been doing it for years. Kiwi was originally from Meridian, Mississippi. Of course, nobody knows where that is, probably, but Kiwi was in there in the 80s. Matter of fact, Christopher was 3 or 4 years old and became the team's mascot. But when Kiwi graduated, he went, I believe it was Portugal. Portugal, I believe, is where he went to play ball. And I guess he got homesick one night, and he calls up. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And he says, I answered the phone, and I was trying to understand the language barrier because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm from Mississippi, and all I know is, Southern talk. And, and finally I hear this, Mr. Johnson, this Kiwi, take the call. And I went, oh, dear Lord, it's been 2 years. And so he sat there, and I talked to him for about 45 minutes on the collect call, but it was wonderful. I've always told my students, whether they're athletes or non-athletes, I'm a phone call away. Y'all have my phone call. Y'all have my phone number. Just give me a call and, whatever I can do to help.
Yeah.
But Kiwi's a good kid. We stay in touch. And like I said, he is got a heart of gold, and he's helping these kids tremendously down there and giving back to the community. And he's one of them that I'm very proud of.
I'm pretty sure you would say that he had focus and determination, and that has probably carried him through to what he's doing today.
Yeah, well, he had his freshman year, he didn't have a lot of focus, and he came in my office one day, telling me, trying all this cutting up and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm sure we can't do this today. Well, I'll do it today, but I just looked at him. I said, "Get out." And he stopped me. He said, "Sir," I said, "Get out. When you can come in here and talk and speak to me, like you're supposed to, then you can come back." I said, "But you need to get a grip on life. And the first thing, you don't need to come in and say to me, you have to do this. When you start with you have to, out the door you go. I don't have to do a thing." So about 45 minutes, he came back in. The whole attitude had changed. We had an understanding, had a wonderful relationship from that point on. Everything's worked out fine.
Yeah.
But, you need to tell these kids sometimes what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we talked. I think we've talked about a lot of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it would be nice to hear some of those things, because again, we talked about the coach and the mentor aspect, and it might not be a coach. Like the guy could have called anybody because he was homesick from Mississippi.
Anybody in the world, yeah.
Playing basketball in Portugal, and he says, "I'm going to call Mr. Johnson at the time," and so that's I thought that was a nice thing to bring up. Is you never know who that person might be, who that mentor might be, who that coach might be. Yeah. Might not be an actual coach, might not be an actual boss or a superior or a leader that's directly in your report. So, but to get back to Reggie's question, I'm going to take you off camera now. All right. So, okay, you go over there. You go there. Reggie had just asked a really good question. So
it was good seeing all of y'all, and I am going to go take a nap because Christopher made Dr. Long and I do, filming for like 6 hours a day, and I'm sure it's going to be more tomorrow.
Great seeing you, Dr. Johnson.
Great seeing you.
Some sort of payback.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Good seeing all of y'all.
Bye. So to get back to what you had asked, Reggie, about the transition. So you're right. Elonzo and I both we didn't come from tech. I worked in hospitality. I got a hospital. We want to talk about focus. I didn't even apply to college. I was so unfocused that I didn't apply to college. For like 15 years, I thought I got into college because he filled out an application for me. Apparently, I filled out an application when I went to college day, and I didn't realize that's how I got. I just thought I got an acceptance letter one day in the mail. And I thought it was because he applied for me, because it was. I went to college where my dad taught, and so I was so unfocused I didn't even apply to college. I didn't even get a major until 2 years into college. I got a degree in hospitality management, and I didn't go work in hospitality. I went and worked in HR. and then after that, I got got laid off during not the first recession, but the first of the most recent recessions. 2008, the housing bust. I worked HR in the gaming industry, casinos. Recession hits, casinos, entertainment, they go out the window. So last one in, first one out. I graduated in 2008, started working in 2008. So that didn't work out well for me. So, you think I'd go work in hospitality? No, decided to go do insurance. So, unfocused. So that didn't work out. And that was one of those three people that I talk about that I say still has impact on my life.
Yes.
Was that insurance agent that I worked for. Because when I started with him, he told me, he said, when or if you realize that this is not something that you want to do, come and tell me and we'll work something out. Because it's insurance and it sells. People know, like he knows that it's not for everybody. And so he told me that and I realized it. And I told him, I went to him and I said, this isn't something that I want to do. And he stuck to his word. We worked something out. He kept me on. I had to work. He kept me on while he found a replacement. The replacement got trained, and then I had to go. But it allowed me that gap to transition into hospitality. Finally, I'm now in hospitality. So I work in hospitality. I start working at the front desk. I move into management, and then within a couple of years, I'm doing development. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing development. I'm doing new constructions. I'm doing renovations. I'm managing these projects of, millions of dollars. And that's what I'm doing. Opening new hotels, just constantly opening new hotels. It was great. It was fun. It was a lot of work. I love projects. I love making things work. I love bringing things to completion, which is probably why I love when I got hired messages, because it's like, boom, got finished with that project. All right. It's the same feeling that I got on opening day of a hotel. I finally realized that after about, 100th or 200th person saying I got cloud hired. I'm like, oh yeah, that's that same feeling. Okay, now it makes sense. It's that completion of the project. But so it was great. I enjoyed it a lot. And then the pandemic hit. What did people stop doing during the pandemic? Traveling.
Yeah.
I used to joke. You could ask my dad. I used to joke that I always had job security because people always needed somewhere to stay, and they didn't want to stay in the old place. They're going to stay in the new place. So I'm going to keep building the new places. Yeah, that joke ran out. I got laid off because everything just went to zero. Literally went to zero overnight. I had just opened a hotel that year, so I was still over that project until the next project came along. I would open the hotels and I would stay on board and manage them and operate them until the next project would come. And I'm not being facetious when I say that every 12 hours, I was literally watching thousands of reservations disappear over every 12 hours. And so I saw the writing on the wall, but it was like a slow moving train wreck coming. So unlike Elonzo or Mike, where it was I'm going to transition, mine was, well, here's the end of the road. Boom, just like that. Out of the blue, out of nowhere. My wife and I were actually on our delayed honeymoon in Greece while this was happening.
Wow.
So the day that the travel restriction went in place, we were on a Greek island and all of our family members were calling us and we're like, well, I'm stuck. It could be a worse place. I'm stuck on a Greek island. I'll go work on a freaking olive farm. But in reality, it was like, okay, it was all collapsing around us. My wife and I both work in hotels. So that was a very very scary situation. We came back and we were still working. We had to work in quarantine because we traveled back, and everyone that was traveling had to work in quarantine, had to be quarantined for 2 weeks at that time. So I was having to lay people off over the phone. This was before virtual, yes, there was Zoom at the time, but people hadn't started using Zoom like they do it now. We were still like, okay, phone calls. That's how we got to do this. So I had to lay people off over the phone. And then I got the phone call that I knew was coming, that I was laid off. And my wife and I worked for the same company in hotels that were next to each other. And we're working in quarantine in the same house. She's working over here, I'm working over here. And she's looking at me through the door frame of the room that I'm working in, because she got a phone call right before me that said, we're going to have to lay your husband off, and we're going to ask you to take on the responsibility of both the properties.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know which phone call was worse, mine or hers.
Yeah.
But so that happened. That's how I transitioned. It was a very difficult period of time, but there was one thing that I did know. I did know that I wanted to, I wanted to continue making things and doing things and bringing things to completion, but I didn't know what it looked like. And so it was an end of a career that I didn't have a choice to do. I didn't have a choice in the matter. And it came out of the blue, so there was no preparation. So I'm in my 30s. It's like, boom, prime time. I just opened my 5th hotel. Well, now we're going to move on to the next one. And so it ended. And so that's how I transitioned. Eventually, a colleague of mine that I had met over, during this, I guess you call it wandering in the desert period. And we wandered together for a little bit, and we were helping each other out. He said, "Hey, you got to check this guy out." I came across. He's. I'm trying to get into cloud computing, and I came across this guy. You really got to check him out. And I checked him out, and I'm like, "Huh, cloud architecture. That sounds like something. That sounds like making things, doing things, bringing things to completion. All right, that sounds fun." And then after a little bit, I was like, "Hold on, wait a minute. This guy's got a business, but he doesn't realize he has a business. Okay, I don't need to be a cloud architect. I need to make this guy's business.
Yeah.
I gotta bring this guy's business to completion." So then the next thing I know, like 2 weeks after I watched his first thing, I'm down in Port St. Lucie at the restaurant around the corner from his house, trying to convince him. It's like, "Look, dude, you've got something." He's like, "No, when am I going to have 50 people in my program? I'm not going to have 50 people in my program." He was thinking about 50 people in his program. There's 66 people on YouTube right now, 2.5 hours after you started, Mike. and he didn't think that there was going to be 50 people in the program. So that's how I got here.
I thought it was just going to be a small coaching thing where I was just helping a few people get hired.
Yeah.
Well,
You're only helping people get
everywhere.
hired from multiple continents, Mike. No big deal.
So
At this point, I don't know if there's a country in the world where our students haven't been hired. I don't know how, but last year we were in 96 magazines and people were writing about us, and all the work we've done to get people to get hired. We were on national TV, national radio, syndicated radio shows. It's been an exciting thing. And for the most part, Chris was with me from the beginning. About a month into this, Chris started.
So that's my experience. My transition was not planned, but it's definitely a story in adversity that I did not realize was kind of similar to your story, Reggie, about, you didn't chase the guy down to try and tackle him, and 3 years later, it came full circle. That similar to yours, you didn't realize that story, that story in adversity was happening. But it was.
Definitely. I appreciate you guys sharing that. That was definitely some valuable wisdom that I'm sure that people watching can take, including myself, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you asked, because
Me too.
we don't talk about ourselves much. I mean,
No, I don't even know how.
Mike does. I'm getting more familiar with talking about myself as we do this, but it is good. It's I've got more stories of adversity for you, but it's not for here. It's not for I've shared them. I've shared some before, but those are for later.
We have an offline convo, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, so Elonzo, I know you've got a good question for Reggie, and I think it's a good question that we're ready to close on. So.
All right, Reg. Okay, what do you think about this? What lessons have you learned that you can take with you from football?
No, I think that's a great point to end on. And for me, there's a couple of things that come to mind. For one, obviously, I think just simply teamwork, right? Just being selfless, understanding the goal that everybody's out to achieve. Like we're saying, you can't achieve anything by yourself, right? So I feel like that the teamwork aspect and just understanding different people and their backgrounds and understanding there's intersection to everybody and their experiences. They may be different, just like we're stating, but there's some similarities within all of us, right? Along with that, obviously, I think the thing that we've been driving home, and I know it seems a little bit redundant, but I think it's very important, which is focus. Focus is everything. You know, the amount of time you spend on something oftentimes shows by the product that you give out to somebody, right? So along with focus, I think just determination and a never quit attitude, and just for me, I fell in love with the word relentless because that was just a representation of just my life, right? And just never giving up, no matter who says what. You know, the doubters, the people that may not see the vision, the people that may not believe. I mean, the list goes on. Just waking up every day, right? Like we were saying earlier, there's been countless of times where I've really contemplated if I wanted to go to practice, because there was no way that 8 hours just went past that fast, right? And something in me just gave me the strength to not only get up but actually seize that day and to keep going, right? So, and I'm constantly unraveling things that I can apply from football, that I can apply also to my next career or whatever that case is, or just my everyday life. So it's kind of a melting pot, you know. All of these things work in unison to really just make me and just everybody in general their best selves.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Good drops of information there. Thank you, Reggie.
I think we need to do a hashtag relentless on the thread right now.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I like
hashtag
that.
Relentless. Let me give me a little hashtag relentless here. See, Alonzo's got the easy hashtags. I got the long hashtag. Did I spell that right? Relentless?
Yep.
It's funny, but I think you did. But I'm not Mr. Spelling by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you are not.
And with my arthritic hands from 20-some years in martial arts, everything's got a spelling error with me.
Yeah. I saw Bob Welch there in the chat box. Bob is relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob is
Bob's got a
relentless.
great
Bob is
story,
another
too.
student of ours now, a cloud security architect, and amazing in every way too.
And I see somebody dropping. So actually, a gift from my dad. One of the last gifts I've received from him was actually a book entitled "Relentless" by a guy that named Tim Grover. So I saw somebody in the chat drop his last name. So after reading that book, I kind of just ran with it and made it a part of my own journey. That's really helped me out through some tough times. So just having that mindset of being relentless through everything, no matter and I think that word is unique because it doesn't say that things are going to be easy, but
Right.
to know that
Despite it all.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, as much as I want to keep going, we can keep going forever. We do have to end. I'm going past our New Year's resolution of trying to stick to our time frame. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's been a great show. Reggie, Elonzo, Mike, I'll let you guys share some last words. We'll go. We will go clockwise. Now that I've moved Mike around, we'll go clockwise. I don't have any last words, so we'll go to Elonzo.
Well, I gotta say, Reggie, it's been a pleasure kicking it with you, just sharing your story, talk about what it takes to be elite, the steps that you went through, the young age you decided on, and just the support that you had and how it crystallized into the person that you are today. I want to say hats off for who you are, not only as an NFL pro ball player, but just as a person, someone who understands what it takes, the drive that it takes to get from point A to point B, regardless of the circumstances, and how you've been able to showcase that for everyone that's watching us today. So, with that being said, I just think that focus is something. It's not. It's not an action. It's an action, of course, but it's not just a one-time thing. It's a lifestyle choice, and being able to move forward with that on a daily basis as you move forward towards your goals is key. And thank you for sharing that with our audience. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Elonzo, and yeah, just some last words. First off, I just want to appreciate and say thank you to you guys just having me on to share this platform with you and just to share a little bit of my story. Obviously, we talked a lot about focus and determination regarding my career in football, but best believe that these same attributes that we're talking about are being applied for me personally in my venture into cloud computing as well. So that's definitely something that has even brought me here to meet you guys, and it's something I'm really passionate about as well, along with my ventures within football. So
awesome.
I just wanted to address that, and then lastly, I just want to leave with everybody in the audience is I think just from taking away all the stories and experiences that have been shared within this panel right here, that the journey may be different for all of us, but it's led us to all be on this call right now, right? So I don't necessarily in my life, I don't think anything has happened because of chance. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I hope that this kind of was clear to inspire somebody else to really go all in on the dreams that they have for their life and the goals and aspirations that they have, even if they might not have the support. I'm a living witness to let them know that as long as you believe in yourself, that you can achieve anything you put your mind to.
All right. I love that.
All right. And Reggie, first, thank you for sharing your story. You're amazing in every single way. And you exude what it takes to be elite, what it takes to be the best in whatever you do. Not only with your skill, but with your grace and your heart. So first, thank you for coming here.
Yeah.
And I mean that in every way. Secondly, everyone, please learn from Reggie. When he described what it took to get there as a professional football player and me as a CEO, it's not any different. Maybe our tools and vehicles were slightly different, but it's the same thing. It's the focus, it's the hard work, it's the dedication, it's never quitting until you get results. And when you fail, we all fail, never quitting until you win. Because it's better to not lose than it is to win. Losing is the worst feeling in the world, and I don't want to see anybody lose ever. So please, take these lessons, apply it to your life. There's a reason Pepsi, when I was a kid, Coca-Cola owned the entire soft drink market.
Mm-hmm.
Pepsi started hiring pro athletes. And poof, overnight, Pepsi owned 50+% of the market. Coca-Cola was so scared by it, they didn't realize that it was Pepsi and its pro athletes. They changed the formula of Coke, and then they lost even more market share. So, it's that. IBM used to hire competitive pro athletes. So did Cisco. Why? They wouldn't quit until they win. So take these lessons from a pro. Never quit until you win. And the things that you'll be winning are incredible. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Reggie, again, thank you so much. And obviously, Chris and Elonzo, thank you so much. And thank your father, because he had so much to work with.
Amen. Yeah. I just want to do a hashtag Reggie Bonnafon. So
yeah, me too.
I'm putting that out there. I drew it. I got it out there first. So please throw that in for him. It's been an amazing time with him and sharing that experience and excellence.
Oh, I did a hashtag. There we go. There we go. Will you leave it to me to mess things up? Yeah. All right. I agree. Hashtag Reggie Bonnafon in the chat box. Yeah, Reggie, thank you for joining us. There's
Definitely.
just such great insights to share. And the thing again to wrap it all up is that it's all they're all the same things, just implemented in different aspects of life to reach success and to be elite. So so I thank you, everybody. Hope everybody has a good night. For those of you that are our students, see you in class on Thursday. For those of you that are not our students, see you in the webinar on Thursday. And have a great night, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining.